Hi, I'm Will Goldstein and thekingscourt.com, and I plan on doing a series of videos on the Divine Light Ancient Timeline, and I'd like to give you a brief overview of what's there, and then we'll get to the subject of this video, which is Pythagoras and the music of the spheres. So basically, in the Divine Light Ancient Timeline, the whole idea behind that was to put together, the history of the planet and some of the religious systems that existed in the world, and the different religions that sprung up, and all the different ideas and how they came all into being, and it's associated with not just Christianity, but different religions. So there could be things on, the Egyptians and the pharaohs, and there could be things, because they have religious systems to them. And so there could be the Greek mysteries, there could be Hinduism, there could be Buddhism, there could be Judaism, the prophets, philosophy, all those different things. So basically, when you're trying to understand the truth, you're dealing with different categories. So one of them would be the Bible, which is revelation. And the Bible is exoteric. And that basically means that it's for everybody. So you read the Bible literally, and it's for the masses, for everybody to understand, here's the truth, okay? And that's one aspect of it. Another aspect is when you have that Bible, there is a philosophy of religions, and that is developed more into what's called systematic theology, and or understanding the interpretation of the Bible, and just more of a scholastic system. Then there's for interpreting the Bible. Okay, and so philosophy, that's man's search for knowledge and through logic and rational thought. And so there's things, different parts of the Divine Light Ancient Timeline will have all these categories. So then there's mysticism. So that would be the more esoteric aspect, or hidden mysteries, and that has to do with the spiritual side of it, which might have to do with something, for example, the spirit and how it relates to God and through worship, and different categories that are more hidden and secretive knowledge. It's not really for everyone. And basically, it's not for everyone because not everybody's ready for it. So in Christianity and in Judaism, and in all these cults as well, there has always been sort of an esoteric knowledge. And so that's another aspect of the Divine Light Ancient Timeline. So now as far as Pythagoras goes, he's a real interesting character. So Pythagoras lived around 6 to 5 BC. 600 to 500 BC is what I meant to say. And he's very famous for, there's not that much that's known about him. Everybody knows about, the aspects of, related to geometry, trigonometry, and, triangles and everything, so that's the mathematical side. We are going to deal with some of the mathematical side of Pythagoras, but not related that way so much. So he was also, outside of that, he was sort of like a cult sort of leader. He was kind of like a sage, and he had a whole system or lifestyle that he followed. There was rituals and rules that they had. He was a vegetarian. He was probably associated with the Greek mysteries, some of the temples there, and maybe associated with the Orphic religion, which is based on Orpheus. But the main thing behind him in his sort of cult was that he sort of preached silence, and which is part of, say, hesychism, which is or other ascetic lifestyle. So he was a bit of an ascetic that way. And, he got his learning. Yeah, some people believe that he traveled to Egypt. He lived in Italy. And he was a pre-Socratic figure. And anyway, so one of the main things that was important to Pythagoras was the purification of the soul, which is huge in Christianity and Judaism and all. So that's why I'm getting back to him, even though he was so far back. He is largely influential in the world that developed. So he did believe, and probably believed in the purification of the soul because he believed in Hades, and he believed that there was a judgment coming for all people, and he also believed in reincarnation, and so he wanted to be a good judgment for himself and for all people. So he preached purification of the soul, which is huge in spirituality. So that's some of the aspects of him. But now we're going to get into more the music of the spheres. And so obviously music of the spheres, and he's also related to the Pythagorean scale and the Greek modes, and there's a relationship between those two. And since I'm a musician, it makes perfect sense why I'm doing this video on Pythagoras, because this very scale that I use for my music and that the world uses is based on the Pythagorean scale. That's how huge a figure this person was. So, first of all, the cosmic level of the music of the spheres. So the idea behind the cosmic level of the music of the spheres is that, they had a different sense of astronomy, and at that time they didn't have the heliocentric knowledge of the cosmos. Okay, so whatever way they saw it, they saw the planets and they were revolving around, and they're in their orbit and their sphere, and there was a certain ratio there, and somehow in their movement they were emitting a certain sound, which humans can't hear. It's out of the sound is there. It's just that it's out of it's not inaudible to humans. Okay, so so basically what I'm trying to say by that is the nature itself and the movement in nature is emitting sound. The very planets are emitting sound, and they're emitting it in a certain ratio, and so it's producing harmony. So that's where we get the idea in the Bible of the heavens are singing celestial harmony, because they really are singing. So, and also that's related to the musical aspect of it. So I don't know, I think, there's stories about Pythagoras and how he developed the scale. Maybe somebody was hitting with a hammer on some metal or something, and it produced it, and he realized, well, if you have twice the mass or something, then, and I don't really understand that this well, but twice the mass might produce twice the pitch, which we got the octave, and then you could proceed from there. So whichever way he figured it out, and so you have the overtone series, and all of nature is basically, all the sound in nature is following the overtone series. What I mean by that is a bird singing is following the overtone series. The overtone series, you basically have the fundamental, the bass, and then and I'm not going to give the whole overtone series, but I'm going to give the part that's related to music, because that's what this is all about. So you have, I'm only spending a moment on it. So you basically have the octave, the fundamental bass, and then up an octave, and then a fifth above that, and then the octave above that. So that's 2 octaves above the fundamental, and then you go to the third and the fifth, and then the minor seventh, and then the octave, and then it proceeds on from there through the scale. Okay, so all the way up to that point that I just gave up there, which was, I guess that was 3 octaves, to that third octave up there. So that's basically the aspect that's really useful in vertical harmony. Okay, so, and those are all ratios, they're mathematical ratios. So they're all in harmony because they are mathematical ratios. Okay, and I'm not going to get in. You can study, look up some other video on the the overtone series, and it'll give you all the mathematical ratios of a third, two-third, whatever. They're all there. Okay, so anyway, so those ratios exist. So beautiful music is in harmony, just like in harmony that God really designed. So when we look at nature, nature is beautiful because it's an order, and there's harmony in nature. There's harmony in the structure. So mathematics and music are sort of like almost the same thing. So there's design in that, and there's all these ratios. And so beauty in nature is beauty because it follows these ratios and these patterns, okay? And so in music, music that follows ratios like that produces sound and harmony, and it's in order and structure, and therefore makes it beautiful music. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is, for someone to really write music, they're not really writing the music, they're sort of discovering the music. God is the one who's the author of music, and if it's beautiful music, he's the author of the beautiful music because it's his structure and his whole design. All that a composer or a songwriter can do is marvel at the majesty of how this whole system works as they try to figure it out. And so, it's like it exists already. It's kind of like Michelangelo, and he's as a sculptor, and he's working with marble, and somehow he can see inside that marble is David, the sculpture David. Okay, it's there. Okay, the objective is to find it. So the whole purpose of this video is really just to understand that there's harmony in nature, that the heavens are literally singing, okay, music of the spheres, and we're to put our life in harmony, okay, and then when our life is in harmony through purification of our soul and following the commandments, living a godly life, loving God, loving our fellow man, following the commandments, as we become in harmony, and then we can also sing in harmony and participate in beautiful music and worship, and that's the whole point. So there are other people, throughout the history of the world that have kind of taken off on Pythagoras. Maybe Boethius and I'm not going to get into a whole thing on Boethius, but Boethius would be one of them. Kepler, famous for astronomy, he was very much into the whole aspect of that, of music of the spheres, and also maybe in string theory, present day string theory with Michio Kaku I don't want to mispronounce Michio Kaku. Okay, yeah. So present day string theory. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to do more on the Divine Light Ancient Timeline. Bye.